Hi, everybody in podcast land and also on YouTube. I'm James.
I'm David.
I'm Riley.
And this is the Carpool Critics Movie Podcast, where today we are talking about 2003's Korean classic, Oldboy.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert, Oldboy.
It's from 2003.
So
I guess
every episode you just tell people
Also-
reasons why they should have
It's
seen
from
it.
6 days ago.
But there was a Western remake in 2013 that was apparently,
Skippable.
Skippable.
bad.
Okay, David, what are you giving this movie out of 10?
Oldboy is weird, shocking, manic, and pessimistic, and I don't want to take my eyes off it for 1 second. 8.3 out of 10.
Holy shiza Manelli, dude.
This is not a Riley movie.
No, I'm gonna be the bad guy this time. Which I
Right?
don't want to be because I'm almost like I don't even want to talk about this movie.
10:30 p.m. last night, I guess Riley finished watching it. We all get a text.
No,
in
that
the
was
group
like
chat.
that was like a quarter of the way through.
Oh my God. We get a text at 10:30. We should have covered Minari.
Another Korean movie that's being applauded for.
It's not
For-
Korean, though. It's
oh,
American, made by Korean people, I think.
Yeah, it's an American movie, though, right?
Yeah, but it's made by Korean people.
It's a great movie.
And it's about a Korean family. Anyways,
So is this one.
it is.
Go for it, Riley.
I'll tell you what, I felt like an old boy by the end of this movie because, geez Louise, here's my real slogan. Great cinematography, great acting from what I can tell, not being Korean, and great courage to stare straight into the depths of human emotion. And that's about all I can say that's great. I'm giving this a 4 out of 10 because I feel like I acknowledge that there is a lot of like good stuff in it, like just technically, but I did not enjoy this movie. And it's not that I was offended. I was just like disappointed.
You're just so soft, and it's like anything that's unsultry, you're just like, ew.
No, see, that's what I'm saying. I'm not offended. I'm not disgusted. I'm just watching it. I'm just like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, there's many reasons why I didn't enjoy the movie, but we'll get into those.
Riley's
James?
never thought about revenge in his entire life.
No.
It's not that
He
it's
buries
not
the hatchet.
It's not that
Your
it's-
slogan's over, Riley. Defend yourself later.
Revenge is a cool motivation. It's just that the motivations in this movie are completely unbelievable and unrealistic in any way, so I can't really map onto them.
Never had a sister? Certainly never wanted to kiss her.
Definitely not.
You don't get
I
it.
have 3 brothers. I
Never
don't
get-
understand it.
None of them been
Go ahead,
pregnant
James.
before? All right, here's my slogan.
What?
I was lazy. Is this Asian cinema? This is crazy. 7 out of 10.
What?
Nice. I love
And
it.
it's kind of a joke, but kind of not, because I feel like if you're a person who has minimal exposure to Asian cinema,
Yeah.
and Asia in general, like you've never been to Japan or Seoul, but you've just kind of like just seen glimpses, it kind of seems like everything is tentacle porn and incest. You're like, what are they doing over there?
Yeah.
So this, I've barely seen any Korean movies or Asian movies, really. Like I had seen Parasite, of course. I saw Oldboy when I was in college because it was my roommate's favorite. And then I never watched a Korean movie again for like 10 years. So this is kind of what I thought all Asian cinema was. And maybe it is. I still don't know. But anyway, I think it's a great movie. Very creative, very weird, lots to think about. A little bit confusing at times. But let's get all into it, all over it. After this message from our sponsor, Private Internet Access VPN. I'm sorry, listeners who are apparently bored of us having the same sponsors every time, but it's PIA. They help you hide your true IP address so that you can bypass geo restrictions and censorship. You can connect up to 10 devices at once, and it includes an internet kill switch,
The tongue cutting? I
Oh,
don't
Desu,
know.
no!
There we go. Use that one.
a hammer sound, if your VPN gets disconnected involuntarily. PIA is available for Windows, Mac, Android, iOS, and even as a goddamn Chrome extension. So check it out at lmg.gg/carpoolcritics.
Well, if people are tired of our sponsors, maybe they should sponsor the podcast themselves.
I know. I was like, thank you for your email, but I wish Lexus sponsored us. You just don't get to choose that, really.
Yeah.
Well,
Share with your friends, guys.
Yeah.
If you want more sponsors, share with your friends.
Yeah.
don't share this movie with them, though.
Especially your rich friends.
This is a good movie.
Hey, remember what happened in this movie? Let me tell you. Average salary man Desu got too wasted one night, making his best friend Ju Hwan pick him up from jail and chaperone him home to his wife and daughter. But when Ju Hwan turns his back for a second, Desu has disappeared. He wakes up in a hotel-inspired prison with no idea where he is, why he is there, or for how long. The television in the room tells him that his wife was murdered and that he was the prime suspect. After multiple suicide attempts, Desu starts chronicling every bad thing he's ever done and vows vengeance on whoever imprisoned him. After 15 years, Desu is hypnotized and mysteriously released on top of a building. With the help of Ju-won and a friendly sushi chef named Mi-do, Desu starts his search for the truth. His captor eventually reveals himself and says that if Desu doesn't discover why he was imprisoned in 5 days, he'll kill Mi-do. If Desu does discover the truth, he will kill himself.
Nice.
Okay. Mi-do and Desu have sex and eventually discover that his captor is Lee Woo-jin, his former high school classmate. Visiting his alma mater, Desu remembers that he once witnessed Woo-jin having sexual relations with his sister, who killed herself after Desu let the information leak. Desu confronts Woo-jin with the truth, but Woo-jin's revenge is far from over. He shows Desu a photo album revealing that Mi-do is actually Desu's daughter. Desperate to keep Mi-do from the truth, Desu cuts out his own tongue to appease Woo-jin. With his revenge complete and nothing more to live for, Woo-jin kills himself. Desu finds the hypnotist and asks her to erase his knowledge of Mi-do being his daughter.
I don't think you even mentioned this hypnotist yet.
He was hypnotized.
Yeah.
Said that.
It's all good.
Well, the hypnotist. There's one. The film ends with Desu embracing Mi-do as he emits an ambiguous smile that turns into a grimace. Has he successfully forgotten, or will the monster that Woo-jin created always be with him? ?
Wow.
I don't care.
What? What a ride.
No,
man.
it's not that I don't care. I just I don't understand. Okay, positives. What's
Here's
good
a
about
list
this movie?
of
Some
really
amazing shots.
cool shots.
Yeah.
Like inventive. Like I don't think this movie had a huge budget.
Right.
Although it has some cool special effects with those ants on that arm. Am I right?
Oh, boy.
Did you know the ants and the arm were CG?
That's a trivia entry on IMDb. Whoa, no way. That arm wasn't real. I just thought it was really shiny. Here's the first cool shot is when he comes out of the box. Like you're just seeing the whole screen is filled with green grass, and then there's a box in the middle of the green grass. And to me, since there's nothing to anchor like a sense of scale, I just thought, oh, that's like a shoebox or something. And then it opens, and a man comes out of it. I was like, whoa! It kind of just buzzed my brain a bit. I thought
It
that
is
was
kind of a
cool
cool image. You don't expect. He looks like super small.
Yeah.
In comparison to the box. Yeah.
Well, it's cool too because the hypnotist was like, "Hey, you're gonna wake up in a field," and so my brain was like, "Oh, he's like totally in a random field somewhere," and then it reveals that he's just on a rooftop, and you're like, "What the hell?"
We were gonna put you in a field, but budget restrictions.
There's another
Your
shot
captor wouldn't pay up.
where it's looking on profile view of a really steep road, like 100% slope. By the way, 100% slope equals 45-degree angle. Really steep road, and all these people are like walking down it, whatever, and then character comes in from the side, just sprinting up it. It was just like a good image. It's just a good shot.
There's tons of. I mean, I will say that for that. That was one of my notes. That like one of the good things that I can say about that is like there were tons of like really cool inventive shots, like the transition. Did you already say that the subway coming out of the background?
Oh
in one
no,
of those
that was
shots?
a good one.
It's like panning away from Mi-do, and it's like. It's so smooth.
It looks like it's coming out of a reflection. At first it's a reflection, but then it becomes the train coming out. It's awesome.
Some really cool wipe shots like that. And then there's a shot later where we're close up on Desu's face, and then we dolly back and we're going through the chopsticks in his hand. I was like, whoa.
There's some good storytelling with it too. There's a joke actually that's all about the shot. It's when he finds like these suppositories that apparently she delivered medicine to him like up the butt when he was sleeping. And so
Totally normal
he's like
thing to
holding
do.
this package. There's 2 in there and 2 left. I mean, there's 2 in there and 2 are gone in the package, right? And then she's telling him from the other room, yeah, I gave that to you when you're passed out. And then you just see like the package just like slowly leaves the frame. Like you can just, you just know he's like processing what happened. Just like, oh, okay. That was awesome.
I think my favorite shot in the whole movie is near the beginning. It's probably not even my favorite, but one that stood out to me is when they're him and Ju-won, is that his friend?
Yeah.
Are in the telephone booth, and he disappears, and it's just a crane shot that goes overhead, and it's all the people walking with their umbrellas, and it's like a 40-second shot. It's really long, but it starts as a close-up, goes into an overhead crane, and it just keeps going, and it's like this really big feeling of like his absence, and I thought that was an excellent shot. And I think in that same vein, this movie does a really good job of like changing its pacing. It's certainly visually, where there's lots of really long shots where like when Desu is in the prison and he's like talking to the guard and he's like trying to get out through the hole.
Yeah.
It's like one take. It's just a really long shot. But then later there'll be like lots of jump cuts, and they use the pacing of these shots to really amp up and down the intensity. And I think that's really effective in this movie.
Let's go back to that phone booth though, because actually you're right. That was the first cool shot I noticed, because they're in the phone booth together, or his friend's on the phone, and you can see Desu in the background. But then the camera just rotates around in one big long shot, so we no longer can see the hero. And then when it goes up to reveal wider, he's gone.
Yep.
And it was cool that it was just a great inventive way for them to get like telegraphed to us that he's gone, and no one knows how he left. We don't know, because there's other parts of the movie, quite a few other parts of the movie, where it's audience superior. We have information that the characters don't.
Right.
Like even the part you mentioned where he gets hypnotized and he's watching the TV and he says that he's framed for the murder of his wife.
Yeah.
We saw when Desu is passed out, we see his guards or whatever take his fingerprints by taking a cup, and they take his blood and they plant all this evidence. We see that, but he's passed out. He doesn't see that.
Right.
But in this case, we're right there as confused as anybody else in the movie of like, where the hell did he go?
Right.
I think that's the main feeling of this movie, is the confusion and the slowly peeling back the layers of what's going on. And like I like that. I like that disorientation. Like the whole sequence when he's in the prison, I think the whole sequence he's in the prison, I think could be really boring, but I think they do a really good job of like constantly changing up what's happening to him there. Like his kind of his relationship with the TV, his freaking out, his fighting. They take a bunch of angles to kind of one like single place. And I don't know, it just works for me.
Honestly, I was really into the movie up until he meets Mido, because that's really when things start not making sense. But before that point, I'm like, yeah, I'm right there with you. I love the feeling of there being this mystery that needs to be solved, and we are in the dark, and everything's very disorienting and confusing. And I'm on the side of the protagonist, where I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's get revenge. Let's find out why this is happening. Let's go. And after he meets Mido, I'm like, that largely goes out the window.
It's always a hard balance with like big twists in movies where when you know the twist, you're like, oh, a lot of this stuff kind of does make sense. But without it, you're like, why does she take him in? Why does she like him? Why does she do this? And it's all explained. She was hypnotized and it's all this.
Which is a stupid explanation, but we'll get into that.
I don't know. But the first time you watch it, you're just like, that's weird.
Yeah, so after that ending, I'm sitting there and you're revisiting mentally all these things that you thought were just weird, especially as a foreigner watching it. I was like, okay, so he basically, she's like, hey, you're awake now. I'm gonna go to the bathroom. I'm bringing this knife because I don't trust you. You might try to rape. You might try to rape me. And then he goes and breaks into the bathroom and like tries to rape her. And he's like, what the fuck? Yeah. And then she comes out and was like, hey, look, I didn't let you have sex with me, but I'm interested in you.
Yeah.
So I will have sex with you later, I promise. If you hear me whistling this tune, you're allowed to have sex with me. But even at that time, I still may resist, but just punch me and have sex with me anyway. I'm like, what? So like, what am I watching?
I may be able to imagine a Western movie where something like this happens, and I would be like a little bit more okay with it, where I'm like, oh, this lady's just super weird. But I don't think that the movie really like
makes her seem
super weird. She's like a sweet, nice girl, and like, but she's 19, but she also took in this like 50-year-old drunkard,
gave him suppositories,
who passed out in her. Gave him suppositories.
After he tries to rape her, is totally cool with them.
Like, you don't call the police. Like,
it's weird.
Call somebody to get him out of here. Don't take him back to your apartment. So, how did she get him back to her apartment?
You see him in the taxi. There's like a shot later in the movie.
So did she, I can understand that these people have been hypnotized and then their behaviors are nudged subsequently. Mm-hmm. So every action they take is because of that programming. But the things that she says, like when she gives that monologue and she says these weird things, is that because of the hypnotism? Or
I think it's unclear.
Sure,
they kind of give us the specifics of a lot of stuff, and like I like how their hypnotism is played against each other and they kind of trigger each other at the beginning. And I think that explanation works for me, but then there is a lot of stuff immediately after that is just kind of loose.
I could see how he breaks into the bathroom, she fights him off, and then she still is like, I still have feelings for you. That could be induced by the hypnotism. But I don't get like the whole diatribe she goes on.
Yeah.
It's like really wacky.
I whistle.
And that leaves me being like, wait, is this just because I'm not Korean? Like, would this be normal? I can't imagine.
Would this be normal?
Is this a normal...
I can't imagine that it's normal to take in drunkards to your house and give them suppositories.
I'm being a bit like facetious here, but seriously, I don't know. Like, is this more weird
and honestly,
behavior seeming like to me?
So like that is why I am both willing to like give this movie more of a like more grace than I would like potentially if it was a Western movie. Like
leeway,
because I know that I'm not there's a lot of cultural things here that I may or may not get, I'm more willing to say like, all right, maybe this is a masterpiece, And I think that I feel like that's what happens a lot with like critics and like film lovers, where they watch a movie like this and it's disorienting and weird and confusing, and you're just like, but hey, maybe it makes sense to Korean people, so I'm gonna say it's a masterpiece. But like, I feel like there's an element there with like artsy people. I consider myself a film lover, but I think that there is a trend among like people of like high art to watch something like this and hear that it was such a masterpiece, when it first released, and then it debuts at Cannes Film Festival, and they give it an award because it's like so amazing. And I watch it and I'm just like, what the fuck is this shit?
Yeah. I think I totally agree. I think that a lot of people do that, myself included, where like you bring in a reputation of a movie with you and you kind of give it the benefit of the doubt. But I think in this case, some of the insanity and the chaos is thematically linked to what's going on. Like, this movie is chaos, and like this what they're going through is hell. And so having it be disorienting and a fever dream like works for me in tying it all together. Like, this movie wouldn't work if it was like really clear cut what was going on and like what was the order of things and like why things were happening. It needs to be like Revenge is pure chaos.
It's not so much, for me, it's not so much the fact that things were confusing, right? And that things don't make sense. Like, I'm fine with that. I love a mystery. I love movies where you have no idea what's going on until the last act. Like, that's a hallmark of a great movie. That's not my problem. My problem is that the characters' motivations, the like, revenge is a very relatable emotion. Like, obviously everyone can relate to like something bad happening to you and wanting to avenge it. But the reason why revenge is being sought in this case, where it's like you were having sex with your sister and then it got out and your sister got depressed and killed herself. So now, instead of like thinking about the fact that that was wrong or like getting revenge sooner, you wait 15 years and do this super, super, super elaborate thing to like fuck up everybody and then kill yourself. Yeah, it's not relatable at all. That's just not something that humans do.
It's like a heightened reality. It's like a fantasy thing within our world. And so it's based on a manga, and like you can see how it's like it's a manga thing. And I think like within the crazy emotional world this is, it works for me that this guy is refusing to take responsibility for what he did with his sister, and he puts all the blame on this guy's passing remark to a friend as he went. Like, from an outside perspective, it makes no sense, this revenge. It's totally blown out of proportion, and it seems so illogical. But that's kind of the point, is that revenge is illogical. Revenge makes no sense. And like, you can hold on to one idea and it grows into this insane poison that'll totally ruin your life.
Yeah, it's interesting because we actually see that.
That's a cool moral to take away. I'll say that.
We see that reflected.
No, that's a cool message.
By the hero. The hero goes through the same thing, right? Because the villain, first of all, we don't know that he planned this elaborate reveal and like hypnotic incest revenge.
I mean,
all we know really is that he put him in jail, right? He puts him in jail for all this time, and maybe he thought that would have been revenge enough, but then it wasn't. And then he goes further, and he goes further into the spiral until he plans this elaborate thing.
I don't think there's that much difference between the first and second options there.
They're both crazy.
We know that he went super, super, super elaborate. Once he decided to do this, he went super elaborate to the point where he was hypnotizing each of them in multiple layers so that things that the other person did would trigger a new hypnotic response. And it's so, he's following them around.
But did he decide to do that after like he'd already imprisoned Desu?
I don't think it really matters.
For 6 years or something like that. Anyway, my point is, this person is obsessed with revenge despite being really privileged. He's like rich as fuck. His life could have just went on, but he couldn't handle that. And then the main character falls down the same path. He's offered like, do you want truth? Do you seek revenge or truth? And in the end, by the end of the movie, it's like, maybe you should have just sought neither, because both of them just caused you more pain. Yeah. If you would have just like let it go, you would have been fine.
The something that would really underline that for me is a character that would have the choice to seek revenge and choose not to, and we see that they're better off. I would have liked to see that maybe, and that would have underlined that. But as it is, I don't think that message that you're talking about is in the movie, because all we see is people seeking revenge and then just dying or having horrible things happening to them. I think that Desu is justified in his desire to seek revenge, because it's like something horrible. Your entire life was stolen from you. And so it's like, all right, you want to get revenge for that. And that's why I was totally with him up to a certain point, until him and Mito and everybody just started doing things that don't make any sense. Like,
yeah, what kind of stuff doesn't make sense to you? Like what they're doing?
well, okay, the Mito thing, I need to look at my notes.
Yeah, for sure.
here.
Yeah, because to me, I think there's a really interesting examination of this movie through how each of the villain and the protagonist experience revenge. Because I think the movie's trying to, but certainly trying to put them against each other, but even like in mirror images where Odaisu, at the first shot of the movie is him holding onto the necktie of the guy falling off the building. And then later there'll be a matching shot of Ju-in holding onto his sister's arm. And so they're trying to tie like how they're losing their humanity, or like this moment that defines Ju-in but means nothing to Odaisu. And like there's something so interesting there, and I kind of want to tease it out, I guess. And I don't know what you guys think, but I think that
I noticed that mirror shot. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that much. I guess in the first scene, that's just like some random dude who's trying to kill himself. We don't really know.
With his dog. Don't take your dog with you, asshole.
Yeah, that's kind of rude.
Yeah.
Well, they don't show the dog die though.
That's fair.
Kind of bounces off his hand or out of his hand.
Yeah.
Like his body eats the car, and then but the dog's elevated.
Fair enough.
I don't know what parallel to draw between those two scenes, because Woojin is trying to stop her from killing himself or killing herself, his sister. And she's like, no, let go, let go, let go. And he does eventually. But with Odaisu, the guy's like, he went up there to kill himself, but then while he's dangling off the side, he's like, don't kill me.
Yeah. And then he does kill himself after.
Yeah, and Desu like, okay, no, I'll pull you back up, but then he kills himself.
I think there's something to the part where Odaisu tells him his entire story, and as soon as the suicidal guy starts to talk, Odaisu's like, bye. And it's such an asshole move. And I think, he's already a victim of revenge. He's been in prison for 15 years. He's like lost some part of himself.
Totally.
And so like, maybe it's just showing us like how the path goes, where like at first loss is so incomprehensible that it's a trigger. But then as you've lost part of yourself on this journey, on like 15 years of revenge on your mind, like you can't hold on to your humanity anymore.
Oh, totally.
I like that scene where he breaks, and he's on the roof, and he just sees another human being. He just starts groping this guy. This guy's like, man, I got problems of my own. He's like, I don't care. Shh. I just need to rub your face right now.
Yeah, he's like molesting him. Yeah.
That was a really interesting dynamic.
Honestly, all that stuff that paints Desu as being like completely nuts. Like he just lost his mind after 15 years of solitary imprisonment. You know, I love that. I love that characterization. And that's why I said, great acting, because I think that this actor, Choi Min-sik, does an amazing job.
He's
I
awesome.
think he does an amazing job of depicting a man who has just completely lost it, and he doesn't even know what he has left to live for now. He finds out that his daughter's still alive, but that she's he thinks that she's been adopted in Switzerland or whatever. So then he's like, okay, I don't even have that to go for.
But then he just
same thing.
Why did he give up there though?
I think because he's like, she's been adopted. She probably has a decent life. Like, I'm not going to show up and screw up her life. Like, that would be more of a detriment to her than
I think to me it shows like he's more obsessed with revenge than actually just focusing on what's important. And I think that starting life over.
I think that's a key moment, because he switches from being like, I need to find my daughter and try to repair my life. When he learns that that's kind of off limits, then he switches to pure revenge. And I like that moment, because, and she's like, oh, are we going to go find her? Or Mito is like asking him what they're going to do, and he turns around and he's just like, just pain on his face. It's a great moment.
I think his performance is really good too, because the audience can never be sure of his mental state.
Right.
Like you're constantly like, is he totally insane? Like, is he like angry? Is he happy? Like he's constantly switching in these scenes. And like, even the things where like, there's moments where he won't ever give up fighting, but then there's moments where like he gets hit once and that's it. And like, he can't get back up. And I think that's so interesting. And I think it goes to make the whole movie, like it's certainly from his perspective, but it makes it feel like he's kind of an unreliable narrator, and you can't really trust anything you saw. And I think that's something that you don't really like. Like you want to be able to like dissect and be like, okay, this all makes sense. Unless the movie's like very explicit with the fact that he's unreliable. But
that didn't bother me, but I thought more that like, because he's so insane and because his fighting ability is probably largely fueled by just rage and not necessarily like he takes out those guys. by the way, super cool fight scene.
One of the best fight scenes in history.
The first, well,
The hammer scene?
There's the hallway scene, but
yeah.
I'm talking about just the first one where he beats up the kids in the street.
Oh, yeah.
Because he like takes their cigarette and then they're like, oh, look at this dick shit. And then he freaking goes at him. And I'm like, whoa, the choreography in that fight scene was cool. I was like, hell yeah, let's go.
That's where they set up the whole like, can shadow boxing in your room for 50 years translate to real fighting? Yes, it can.
Yes,
It's
it
like,
can.
Okay, in this movie, yes, it can.
I mean, I don't know. I could kind of
no.
see.
It's a
Absolutely
manga.
not.
It's one of those things.
Absolutely
But
not.
okay, this is my point. He's probably not that great of a fighter for real, but the thing that's driving him and making him able to defeat these people, because he gets tooled by the guy at the end, I think that shows that he's not like an amazingly proficient guy. The only people he really successfully beat up are like dumb thugs that probably aren't like kung fu trained or whatever, you know? The thing that's driving him is this rage and this desire for revenge. So like, you know, when, you know, to back a tiger into a corner becomes 20 times more dangerous.
Well, I think
you know?
it's interesting to kind of tie that to the theme as well, where
real?
rage,
Is that a real thing?
Well, it's like, what is it, The Art of War?
where
That's from The Art of War, where
rage can only get you
Guys,
so far.
Wait,
No, drop it.
The Art of War.
Stop.
When you've almost defeated an enemy, then they're the most dangerous they've ever been.
Night is darkest before the dawn.
Sure.
Sure.
Not quite, but yeah,
The
all
Dark
right.
Knight is darkest
Go-
on its third movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah, tying it back to the revenge, where it's like your rage can only carry you so far, and like it seems like in this movie, and certainly from his perspective, his rage has carried him the whole time. It's his fuel, it's his energy, but at one point, like it just can't carry him past like the final henchman. And I think that's an interesting idea where I think the movie's trying to make a point about that rage
final-
is only so much.
Right. The final
Only
mini
so much.
boss.
Final mini boss. Too strong. Mr. Han, too strong.
You might be able to beat the final mini boss, but you're not going to beat the boss without doing all the dungeons.
Yeah.
That guy judo flips him so many times.
When he flips him like 10 feet into the window, I was like,
And then the window just breaks inward.
yeah.
After, I don't know what the deal is with that. I think it was more cinematic than anything.
It was
Just
probably
the
like a
glass.
frame from the anime or from the manga.
Yeah, I just want the glass to sprinkle on him or
I
something.
love it.
I like the they repeat this quote a few times. Laugh and the world laughs with you. Weep and you weep alone.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's 100% true.
Well, if
but
you have a support network, maybe.
yeah, I guess so.
Cul-de-sac Riley.
But if you are, if you're in Desu's situation, it's definitely true. And I feel like I like that sentiment where a character who has nothing to live for and has gone, insane from this abuse that he's suffered. Like, yeah, the only option that you have left is to laugh in the face of this horrible void of nothingness that has now become your life. Like, it's stare into the void and laugh,
Kind of got like that Joker energy where it's
yeah.
he was done feeling sorry for himself, and so you have to turn it into like manic energy that
Right.
will be revenge.
Exact. Oh, that's a good, depressive versus manic energy. You can sit on the side of the road and feel sorry for yourself.
Or you can go and burn down a building.
And one of those is better. I'm not sure which.
Yeah. Man, this movie's funny. It made me laugh. Like even just like with the editing, the scene, like the post-coitus scene, and then it just cuts to the gas going
The
in the room.
post-coitus scene.
The post-coitus scene.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
They're like, it's just a peaceful scene after their like crazy horny sex scene, which was like not a hot sex scene. It's
No.
not, and it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be like, ooh. But then it's
Wait,
like,
so you guys were kind of weirded out by that?
for sure.
I was like,
Weird
I don't-
sex scene. What was the deal with that? She's like, ugh.
I know.
it hurts. I'll endure
So,
it.
I was like, this is kind of like a Asian stereotype of how
Maybe.
women.
Yeah, my
do these
girlfriend
things.
was upset. She's like, this is why I don't like Asian porn.
What was
Yeah.
the deal with it, though? What were they trying to say? Because, like, I could see if it was just, like, actually a hot scene, then in retrospect, when you get new information that it was an incest scene,
You're gonna
you're
feel-
going to be like, ew, I'm wrong.
I think it's
like,
supposed to be
you'll kind of feel what he feels.
kind of like foreshadowing to their relationship, because as the movie progresses, their relationship becomes more father-daughtery, and like there's a moment where she's crying like a little girl, and he's like trying to comfort her like a father would, and I think that's kind of like on the trajectory towards that. Weirdly, it's a sex scene, but it's like I don't know, it just like makes her seem like a young person more than ever, I guess. I don't know.
So I mean, that scene is also super confusing because she just got like basically sexually harassed by the people broke into her apartment.
yeah, and we don't know-
Tore open her shirt and is holding a knife to her.
I think you mean sexually assaulted.
What did
Yeah.
I say?
Harassed.
Oh yeah, assaulted was what I meant
Assaulted,
for sure.
yeah.
Um,
And we don't know the how bad it got, but hopefully not too bad.
yeah, but like it doesn't matter. Like
Yeah.
I don't think she'd be in the mood after that.
And they're just
But
hypnotized.
it's a crazy artsy movie, so who cares? I don't know. It's just insane.
While we're on the topic, oh wait, you want to talk about the scene after that?
Oh yeah, just the humor of it. So they are sleeping. There's the gas pouring into the room, and then it's a hard cut to what's his name?
Woojin.
It's a hard cut to Woo Jin just standing there with the mask on, and it's like, and then it's a hard cut to the present that he leaves, and then it's a hard cut of them being at the present,
Right.
and then like her fainting, and then it's them walking through the, and it's just. It's a whole. It keeps on going, but it's a whole sequence of jump cuts. But they're like so funny to me, one after the other.
That was a funny scene.
Yeah, well, just especially when he appears with the gas mask and he's smiling, and it's like creepy and weird, but it made me laugh so hard.
What?
Yeah,
I was not laughing at all.
Oh,
I don't think
That's
that part was
hilarious.
funny. I laughed in this movie. There's funny stuff.
I thought
in
the
this
first scene was so funny.
movie. Oh, when he was drunk?
When he's drunk in the
Oh,
police
yeah.
station, it was
Man,
so hilarious.
Either he is the actor who's best in the world at acting drunk, or it's just because I don't speak Korean, so I can't tell. But usually when actors try to be drunk, they're just so overboard.
Yeah.
But this guy was just perfect.
It's so funny. And then like Ju-on comes to pick him up and he's like, don't worry, I'll come back to visit you guys. And they're like, do us a favor and never come back. And he's like, well, that will be up to me, won't it? And then he like does the F sign or whatever and then like runs out. And they're like, oh, wait.
My favorite is when it cuts to him lying on the ground and the guards are coming at him and he's just kicking. His legs are just like. It
was a hilarious scene.
slowly losing his clothes.
I think that I felt betrayed from that tone promise. Because I was like, oh, this is going to be a funny movie. Nice. No, not at all.
What do you guys think of like the shocking stuff in the movie? Like him straight up eating that little octopus.
That was interesting because, again, like he wasn't supposed to do that because isn't there places where people do that?
So I looked this up and I might be wrong, but I believe that it's not common for people to just like grab a live octopus
clearly
and just eat it.
The movie shows us that much.
But what they
She's
do-
like, what the hell?
But what they do is they put a live octopus down and they kill it and they slice up the tentacles. But then because of the nerve activity continuing, the tentacles still move. So then that's how you serve it to the people. It's moving tentacles, but the octopus is dead.
So do you know any of the trivia? Like, it really looks like he just grabbed it and ate
It's
it.
a
Like
real
the actor,
octopus. Yeah,
the
it's a real
actor did
octopus.
it.
They apparently used 4 octopuses.
Wow.
Because
Yeah.
they cut after
Yeah.
he puts it in his mouth, takes the first bite. It's a cut.
Yeah.
And
But
he
it
was
was
No,
going
he
on.
really eats it.
And he was a Buddhist and he said a prayer for each one.
I was going to say that. Yeah.
Trivia.
Okay, so then what do you think about the tooth extraction when he goes to the warden of the prison?
Oh my gosh.
And he pretty graphically, I guess it's not like explicitly shown, but he pulls teeth out one by one with a hammer. What do you think about that? Do you think it adds to like this whole hellscape, or do you think it's just like kind of gratuitous?
I was on board with that.
Yeah, I don't think it was like that gratuitous. I think I was just thinking like this guy would talk before he got like 4 teeth taken out. Like he seems like he's just like a lackey. You know?
He doesn't care.
But I guess that guy Park owns the prison and he's like, I can't give my clients away.
Yeah.
So later it makes a bit more sense, maybe. But I still think that he would just like, you're gonna lose all your teeth. Maybe he already knew that he had a good dentist.
It's
Just
his
to
whole
cut his
business
gold
model.
teeth.
He's
though.
like, this isn't that bad in the grand scheme of things. I'll get gold teeth.
I like the scene when he goes back and he's like pretending like he's gonna. He was gonna extract his teeth, but he like fakes it one time, and they all freak out. And he's like, "Oh, sometimes imagination is so much worse."
That was kind of a
I was
funny
like,
moment
"Ooh, I like this.
because Desu screams,
Yeah,
but he hadn't done anything.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
was a
then
funny moment.
I think the last really shocking thing is when Odesu cuts his tongue off.
that
do you
one.
think of that?
That one, I was just like, why? Because it's
The few threads that I had left tying me to this movie narratively, I think were just cut at that moment with his tongue.
Because, like, let's say instead of ripping out the prison guards or prison master's teeth, he had cut his tongue. That would have been like, damn, but okay.
Yeah.
It's probably worse than getting your teeth ripped out, but it's pretty close. But when he was doing it to his own tongue, I was like, but why? Like,
He just offers it up. He's like, yeah.
You could have not done that. You probably could have not done that.
Yeah.
Got the same result.
I feel like I just had mixed feelings about that whole scene where he's like debasing himself in front of Woojin to try and like appease him. He's like begging and clawing at his pants and like licking his shoe and like acting like a dog. And he's like, I'll be your dog. And he starts barking. And I'm like, okay.
I was on board. I was on board with
I like
that. That's
that.
just total destruction.
Yeah.
I
That's the
guess
bottom.
so. It's
That's
just
rock
like
bottom.
It's not funny. It's not interesting. It just seems over the top for no reason. Like I've seen depictions of insanity in movies that I feel are way more relatable and seem realistic.
But anything as pitiful?
Well, but
Pretty pitiful. licking his
This
shoes.
movie's so
For me,
evocative.
there's no point in going to that level of extreme if it doesn't seem plausible in any way that anyone would ever do it. And someone who's like, "I'll be your dog," and then they start barking and wagging their butt. I was like, "This is not like this is people don't do this." I don't know. Like,
I mean, that doesn't really bother me because like what we've just witnessed is insanity. So like it fits with that. I just think
but that's what I'm saying. Insanity in real life has limits. I have witnessed people in, manic states and like I have people in my family who struggle with mania and have been in these sort of like insane states where you're just like you can't even talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
They're just like they're going nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just not a realistic depiction of any sort of real mental illness to me. Like
But it's not mental illness that they're trying to portray. They're trying to portray like absolute desperation.
brain broken.
End
Yeah,
of the
like
rope.
like we're not.
Yeah.
We're out of being human and like I'll do anything.
Like you found out
protect my
that you
daughter.
had sex with your own kid.
I guess
that
there
level.
are. I thought that there were ways to depict that without having him like literally imitate a dog and like run around. Like it seemed like oh, are we watching an amateur? Is this a film student movie here? Like, is this like? It seemed silly. It seemed like a sketch at that point.
It doesn't bother me. I think it's just interesting, and I wonder if it is like a Western versus Korean sensibility thing. Where
It's not that it bothered me. I was unimpressed. That's what I want.
okay, fair enough. Where like in a Western movie, I haven't watched the Oldboy remake, but like it would be like John Wick at the end, where he like would be at his last straw and like almost lose, but then like some final revelation would give him the power to overcome the villain and beat him. And here it's such a pessimistic, dark ending,
Yeah.
and it's almost like overbearing in a weird way. Like having him, like the dog stuff is, I'm like, oh yeah, he's really that desperate. But then cutting your tongue off, I'm like, that's so permanent. Like that's so.
Yeah.
He loses so badly.
I know.
It's so
dumb because he does it himself.
that's what's interesting though. I think is like what is the movie trying to say where like his path to revenge has given his enemy the victory who was also revenge? Like what do you think the movie's trying to say by having him absolutely crushed at the end?
Well, even before I can answer that question, while that scene was happening, the camera rotates around to show the guy standing there
Having the
Would you-
best
and,
time.
and
He's
I
laughing.
didn't know what his face was going to be doing behind that handkerchief.
Yeah.
Is he crying or laughing at
Right.
that moment? That's how emotionally ambiguous it was
No.
in that moment. So
That's
I
a
think
cool
that-
moment. I like that shot. That it's ambiguous because I felt that too. I was like, is he crying? I don't know. But then it comes around. It's like, oh yeah, he's laughing.
I
liked that thematically.
I like that actor, but it's weird that they cast like they're
Another thing.
Woo Jin and Oh Dae-soo are supposed to be the same age. Yeah. It is like clearly they're like 20 years
know.
apart.
That tripped me up, actually.
Yeah.
I didn't get that. At first, I thought it was a bug, not a feature, because I was like, okay,
Yeah.
is that like his the captor's kid or something like that? But then it almost seems like it could be a feature because his life has just been so
much
much
better.
less stressful. A life of extravagance
That's
and
fair.
Yeah, I one
with
of
that
the
kick-ass closet.
one of the
Yeah, that was pretty
few
cool.
kind of extra filmic articles that I read about this movie was the review by Roger Ebert, who was like,
He probably didn't like it, did he?
no, he gave it 4 out of 4
Okay,
stars.
sure.
And I was like, what? I mean, like I knew that critics had loved it and had like won awards and stuff, but yeah, I was like, Roger Ebert, I thought you were a bit more of a prude or whatever, but he actually made a comment about how the insane violence and like going over the top stuff in this movie would never be allowed in Western cinema, and
I
how
agree.
that's bad. He's like thinks it should be all allowed, or he thought. But what he said about the Woojin looking young was like that's almost meant to kind of prop Woojin up as this like he's got his life together. He's this like Greek god of a but he still looks young. He's got everything going for him. And Desu is this like washed up. His life has been stolen from him because he's been in prison. So it's if it is a feature and not a bug, that may be what it serves to illustrate.
Well, I think it's certainly by design because they chose the cast and they must have known.
Well, sometimes there's politics or like, oh, this actor's really big right now.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Maybe.
For me, it was one of those things that just like made the whole everything more confusing because I was doing the math and I'm like, okay, wait, Mito's 19. She's fallen in love with her dad who's like 50 something probably. And now this contemporary of Desu looks like he's Mito's
30?
age.
Yeah.
I'm so confused.
Honestly, that guy was like 26.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think they're like actually 15 years apart in real life.
Very confused.
What do you guys think of the sound in this movie?
Oh, it's good, man. There was actually a time where the music soundtrack, it faded into like you could still hear the same song playing, but now it was just like way in the distance, almost like it was like they're in an apartment and that song's playing in the hall outside. It was really weird. And then there was another time where there's a beeping. I forget what part of the movie it was, but like an intermittent beep. And I actually thought it was my own fridge. It was like David Fincher levels of sound design.
Yeah. That's fair. I think it's good. I think it's dated a little bit. I think technically overall, this movie could really use a remaster. Like the first shot of the movie, which is Odaisu's face, is good, but then the second shot, which is the guy overhanging, is grainy as fuck. And I actually almost found it like the difference in quality in the different shots. Just because it's a low budget movie, it's hard to control the lighting.
Right.
I found it really distracting. And at first I watched
it. Works in the prison scene at the beginning.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because that's the first one you see, and you're kind of just thinking, oh, this is old footage or something like
gritty.
that.
It was interesting. I watched a bunch of different versions to be like, are any of them good? And it's like, no, they're all kind of grainy. Like I still have my Blu-ray. I watched the 4K Plex. I bought it on Google Play
to try and
they all look bad.
Very grainy.
I was looking at it. It's like said 4K. I'm like, is it though? I mean, obviously, whatever they do what they can with the footage. But for me, the music, it definitely did feel dated. I think there were parts where I was like, okay, I have to give this the benefit of the doubt, which also made it another reason for it being a hard watch was because there are multiple layers through which I have to filter what I'm seeing in order to give it the benefit of the doubt, where it's like, okay, the music's not so good, but it's dated. And that's, I'm thinking about during the Matrix time and stuff. Like this is a few years after the Matrix. And so I'm like kind of trying to filter it through that, like thematically and aesthetically, it's kind of similar. So I'm like, okay. And then it's also a Korean movie and I haven't watched a ton of Korean cinema. So there's just things I don't understand. I'm like, it's hard to penetrate through those layers and be like, now I'm fully experiencing the movie because I feel like I'm down one or two senses.
I like most of the music. I think like a lot of it's kind of like melodramatic in a good way, and it kind of works with the heightened emotion of this movie. But there's some stuff where it's so clearly synthesized. Like the scene, I think this is the worst scene in the whole fucking movie, is when Odaisu goes back to his high school and is trying to figure out what happened, and he's kind of seeing his childhood self, and he's chasing himself.
I like that.
You didn't like that sequence?
You don't
it's
like
so cheap and cheesy because like they just put a sepia filter and the music is like cheap 2000s MIDI strings, and I was like, this sucks.
Okay, but I like the device of like they're both two versions of him from different out of time are both doing the same chase.
I liked that sequence.
That was cool.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, to me it felt like an Animaniacs episode or something. Like it just totally rubbed me the wrong way.
Were you enhanced watching this movie?
No, I should have been.
Like you're finding things funny that I just did not think were funny in the slightest. I mean, like I thought it was kind of artsy, where it's like at first you see young Woojin running, and I'm like, wait, is that the sister? And then you see young Desu running, and then we have modern Desu, and they're all kind of like running around, and it didn't play comedic to me. It played like disorienting and mysterious. And
no, it's not funny to me. It's just cheap. Like it just feels like it's like a cartoon. Like it felt.
That's
silly.
fair. I can kind of see what you're talking about.
But I guess it's obviously just a preference thing. But yeah,
maybe.
that I think the biggest problem was the MIDI strings. It's like.
So do you think that she was actually pregnant?
No, I think that she wasn't. It was like a phantom pregnancy.
Because that's what
they say.
That's what the villain he says. Like, yeah, she wasn't actually pregnant. She just kind of believed her own lie or believed the lie until she got these phantom symptoms. Her period didn't come, and then she got a bump and everything. But then the protagonist counters that, being like, no, she actually was pregnant, and you're in denial, basically.
I mean, I think it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, it's like she killed herself because she thought she was pregnant. She could have been pregnant. She could have not been pregnant. It doesn't really have any impact on anything.
Well, I think
but do you think the audience is supposed to read it one way or the other?
No, I think the audience is supposed to be like,
confused.
When you are so blinded by revenge, you'll tell yourself anything you need to justify yourself. And like the same way that Odaisu will have to like literally blind himself to the truth that his daughter is Mido. I think it's kind of supposed to be a similar thing where these decisions that they've made lead them to have to blind themselves to the truth.
Yeah, that brings us kind of to the end of the movie where a couple things. So he gets hypnotized again. And then he reunites with his daughter, and the implication is like, okay, she never found out, and his memories have been wiped, so he shouldn't know, and they can just continue on their lives without the knowledge that they are related and that they're in an incestuous relationship. But then he gives this weird smile. So do you interpret that as like the the memory thing didn't work. He did not get wiped, and he kind of still knows.
I think it's purposefully ambiguous because I think you can read it as that, but I also kind of read it as like there is so much in his head right now, so much pain, suffering that like even though he's tried to veil it, it's all kind of there, and it's not necessarily just the knowledge that his daughter that Mito is his daughter, but I think it's just an overall amount of suffering that he'll never let go of.
Oh, that could be true.
Yeah, I think it's purposefully ambiguous. I think he smiles at first, but then the smile kind of turns into a grimace. So we're like, I feel like the more obvious implication is that it did not work, but it could go either way.
Well, there's the hypnotist says something about your being is gonna split into two men, and one of them is gonna contain all the toxicity and be the monster. And that one is going to walk some amount of distance away, and every step that one takes, it'll age by a year, and then what'll be left is the man, the good pure essence of yourself.
Right.
But then when they cut back to real life outside of that hypnotic dream, they are some distance away from the chair that the hypnotism took place in. There's footsteps leading from that chair, and Desu looks older. Like his hair is whiter, so is he? He's the monster one.
I don't think he. I think he had the white hair before the hypnotism. Because I noticed that when it cut to that and they were like sitting in the snow in the chairs, I was like, oh, he's got white hair.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think it's supposed to be ambiguous. I mean, still don't understand why Mito loves him or is attracted to him anyway. But
Hypnotized.
Yeah, exactly. Which is like that's not emotional.
But there is like a baseline of familial love, which I think underpins it because you remember there's no hypnotism or shenanigans going on with the villain and his sister. They actually just did what they did.
Yeah.
Just starting off with
But they were the same age and nubile young people.
Hormones are crazy when you're a teen.
But when you're 19 and a weirdo 50-year-old walks into your restaurant.
Yeah, but they had the hypnotic nudge.
Right. But that's just... Do you guys find that compelling? You're like, oh, this is a love story between two people.
Have you been hypnotized? Didn't you have a high school prom dry grad thing where the kids got hypnotized? And
what?
You guys didn't do that?
What kind
of I did that too.
What are you talking about?
It's yeah.
We had that at grad.
Who hypnotized
you? A hypnotist came to our grad and like they took everyone was in the gymnasium on bleachers and the hypnotist got a bunch of them, like a subset of the kids to go down in front of everybody.
Is this real? I thought
this happened at my grad. No, I'm serious.
This is like
this did not happen to you.
No, of course
not.
not.
I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
We had prom, which is like a dance and everything, right? You go with somebody.
Yes,
go to the golf course.
We call it grad, I think in Canada.
And then we had dry grad, which is after that.
Right.
So kids don't go out and like get blitzed. They all go and have an all-nighter at the school.
And all the loser nerds.
Yeah.
Go to dry grad and everyone else goes and gets wasted.
Or you got wasted at dry grad. But anyway, they had a bunch of games and stuff like that. And they had a hypnotist there. And it was sweet, actually.
Oh, so it's like one of these activities.
So the hypnotist put on a show, and they got some of the students to go down, and everyone else was watching, and he tried to hypnotize them all as a group, and then some people aren't like susceptible to it or suggestible, so they got to go back to the audience. But then he was left with like 8 of them that were really suggestible, and they did crazy things.
Okay, but here's the deal. Having studied psychology, one of the things we learned about was hypnotism and like its basis in real life. And the thing with hypnotism is you can't actually hypnotize people into doing things they don't want to do. You can suggest. And so people who are highly suggestible will be like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. But you can't make someone who's like, I'm not going to do this. And you can't hypnotize them.
Well, you don't think she wants to reconnect with her father? You don't think he wants to find
She doesn't know he's his...
No, but she does. Like on some subconscious level...
What?
Yeah, I'm with David here. There's a kernel.
What are you talking about?
A kernel of truth.
On a biological level, like you don't think you would
about?
Never recognize your family, like you'd have no way of recognizing
the pheromones,
them?
right?
Yeah,
the pheromones.
On an animal level.
Is this like some astrology shit? Like
no.
what's happening?
Dude.
If you hadn't met your father for 15 years,
we're genetically predisposed to like people that are more similar to us genetically.
What? So you're saying because she like saw some familiarity in his face, she's like, yeah, I'm gonna take him home. She's
suggestible. That like there's a part of her that's like,
no.
I think you're going so far into it that it makes no sense.
You're trying to give a justification for why the hypnotism might work.
Yeah, because she's suggestible to be like, oh yeah, my genetics. I want to spread my genetics.
Right. Sorry. What I'm saying though is that this type of hypnotism that's in this movie does not exist.
Of course not.
You can't hypnotize people in their sleep.
Yeah.
And then when they wake up, they do a bunch of stuff.
Like Manchurian candidate kind of stuff.
Yeah,
like
that is completely fictional.
Hypnotism as a form of therapy is a thing, but it involves just kind of like subtly getting someone down to a more calm state so that they can like rework their preconceived notions and trauma and stuff, and they can address these things. You know, that's what hypnotism is used for.
You're real book smart, but you never seen a hypnotist at dry grad, so what do you really know? What do you know about this?
Yeah, I think it's just one of those things
as
where
like a manga thing.
I've bought into the reality of this movie of one dude fighting off 30 dudes with a hammer in one hallway. Like,
and with that knife in his back for so long, take it out.
So like, we haven't even talked about the hallway fight.
Wait, I don't want to leave this yet.
Okay.
Hypnotism.
One final question on the ending thing. Do you think, like, the question of should their memories be erased and they continue to live in this relationship, or should they just be like, hey, this is what happened, let's move on?
Well, I think that they should not, in the sense, in the case that she doesn't know that he's her father. If they both knew,
if there's asymmetrical information,
because she doesn't know.
So like, this really gets down to the question of like incest and why any one person thinks it's wrong in their moral system.
Welcome to the incest cast.
And I feel like there are strong reasons for disallowing incest on multiple moral frameworks. But you know, in the nihilist world of this movie, sure, why not? You know, if she knows. But I think the fact that she doesn't know means that she's not consenting to being in this relationship. So,
when I think I buy it as his suffering is so deep that he can't face it. He can't face this truth. He's unable to, and so he has to hide it. In the same way that like everyone in this movie can't face their trauma and deal with it, they all have to bury it deeper under a layer of.
But he's making such a messed up choice because he's not saying I don't want to know this and the relationship is severed.
Yeah.
I don't want to know this and I'm gonna continue to be in a relationship with her.
You know what happened?
Like, that's kind of messed up.
He went to the hypnotist.
It's totally fucked up.
He went to the hypnotist and tried to be like, hey, don't erase my memory. Help me to deal with this trauma. But because he had no tongue, she misheard him. Hypnotized him the wrong way.
Yeah, you know, that's why they...
He doesn't even say it. I mean, he wrote stuff down.
They need to be liable.
He wrote his instructions down.
Yeah, it's an unlicensed hypnotist,
I mean,
you know?
She's used to doing dry grads. Like, this is heavy stuff.
She's not in the yellow pages.
You can't find her.
I mean, I hope
Wait,
that
didn't
they
he
don't
literally rip her name out of the yellow pages?
Was it her? I thought it was a restaurant.
Yeah, the restaurants were in their yellow pages.
The Blue Dragon.
I only hope that they don't try to have kids.
Oh, God.
From a biological standpoint, that's the argument against incest.
Yeah, for
Anyways.
sure. You know, in Quebec, can you confirm this because you're from that part of Canada? I heard that it's, there's incest taboo is basically like ubiquitous, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But there's degrees to it, right? So, like in Iceland, they have an app to see, like, not if you're related, but how related, because everyone in Iceland's related. They have a dating app that just, like, tells you, like, this guy's, like, pretty close, so maybe not.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know about that.
But here in this part of Canada, it's like, if we're cousins, that's way too close. I'm, like, not getting with my cousin.
Yeah.
But I've heard that in Quebec, that's not too close. You can totally get with your cousin.
First cousin would be weird, but, like, second, third, yeah. It's definitely more lax over there.
Basically a stranger at that point.
Yeah. Over here, it's like, if you're coming to the same family reunion, nope. It's not allowed.
I mean, it is kind of interesting, the question of, like, incest as a social taboo, because that's what this entire movie is based on. You know?
Yeah, they
like,
take it for granted that
like,
is not cool.
Yeah, and it's funny because I mean, I'd be interested to explore what these characters' moral
if you had a
positions
sister?
are.
Oh, sorry, never mind.
If I had a sister, I'd be willing to explore that. No, I'd be willing to find out what these characters' moral frameworks are, because clearly, you know, neither of them feel too bad about inflicting great harm and murder on different people. So, what moral framework are they operating under where incest is unquestionably wrong? You know? Because
most moral frameworks.
Well, but that's the thing, is that it's like you have to decide. I mean, this is, you know, as an adult, I think a lot of people don't think about this, and they just go with the social default of like, oh, this is something that is socially understood to be wrong or right, so that's wrong or right, and that's how I gauge what I believe, you know, based on society. But I think that part of being an adult is deciding for yourself what you think is right or wrong and why, and you have to have reasons. And I think that these people, it's like, under what assumptions, under what beliefs are you deciding that incest is wrong?
You want them to explain why they think it's wrong in the movie?
No. I said I'd be
Oh,
interested.
you would be interested, yeah.
in exploring that because that's what the entire movie hinges on, and it doesn't really say anything.
If you read the screenplay, there's a preamble on the page 1 that explains the moral frameworks of all the characters.
There's supposed to be a text crawl at the beginning.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
I'm just saying, it's like a Star Wars. I'm just saying that for a movie that is its entire premise is based on incest and the idea of it, I would have liked maybe to see the bad guy kind of explain why he thinks it's not bad, and it's an interesting trope as well because it's the same thing in Game of Thrones and in numerous other types of.
Yeah, but he does think it's bad. The villain does think it's bad.
Do you think?
I think so. Yeah,
But I
because that's
don't
why
know.
he has so much guilt for it and denial, and he channels that into revenge, and he thinks it's bad because that's why he gets the protagonist to do the same act. Because it's like, that's like your own punishment.
I kind of read it the other way where it's like, he's like,
come on, guys, not so bad.
yeah, or sort of. And I think most people would say that like a father and daughter sleeping together is worse than a brother and sister.
For sure.
Not that it matters. We're not here to rank incest.
Well, it is worse because of the power dynamic.
Yeah. But I read him as like kind of trying to justify it. I think you're right. There's certainly an element of his pain manifesting into this revenge. But in my head, he thought it was like kind of justifiable that they really did love each other and that like he wasn't really doing anything wrong and that Odai-su fucked everything up.
Yeah, I don't think that Woojin really felt guilt for loving his sister.
It was one time.
No, I mean,
well, it was more than
I don't
one
think
time.
it was, but
Wait, what?
Because, how did she get pregnant if he caught them right there?
I think the implication is
I
that-
thought that they did more than we saw
Right
in,
after.
in that session. Yeah.
I think, though,
yeah.
if you saw someone watching, you would relocate or stop.
Oh, no, I think that was like an ongoing thing.
Do you think it was ongoing? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not a one-time thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
saying-
you guys agree, but it sounded like you disagree.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I
I did think they banged in that moment, but I guess you're right. She did notice that he was watching then and there.
Right, but I'm saying that it was an ongoing pattern. This was not the only time that they did it. Anyway.
Well,
oh my God.
A moment I didn't like was the mirror. I'm like, why are you doing this? Like, you're just like looking at your own boobs? Like, what's...
Yeah, but I could buy anything at that point. Like
That's fair. That's fair.
These
I just,
people are
as
weird.
soon as
I
she
wrote
picks up
down-
the mirror, you're like, of course it's gonna angle, and she'll see the eye.
Well,
like, fine.
it's interesting because the first characterization we hear of his sister is that she acted prudish, but really she's a wild child and she's like sleeping around and stuff. And then somebody else negates that. I forget who says that's not the case.
The woman.
The hairdresser?
Yeah.
Yeah, but then when in the flashback, that's exactly what's going on. She's like, no, don't do it. And then like when she accepts that it's happening or it's a game. She's playing a game. She's like, no, don't. But really she wants it. Yeah. She's taking out the mirror and she's like, there's some narcissism there, I guess, where she like wants to see herself being pleasured. Yeah, it's pretty fucked up.
Weird.
Pretty weird.
Is this Asian cinema? That's my slogan, guys.
Oh my gosh.
Not all Asian movies have.
The way that I feel about this movie is that it is an orgy of nonsense. It's just like there's revenge there and there's something to take away from it. Like you guys have pulled out some messages, but I think that you can kind of pull out a message of most movies that are halfway decent. And I think this is halfway decent, but then technically on a technical level, but emotionally and thematically, I think that it's an attempt at something, but it ends up just being a bunch of colors flung at the canvas.
I think for me, I would never say this is a nuanced look at revenge. But I would say it's a deep dive, and it creates this huge, deep, depth. I'm not a writer, guys. Where there's a whole bunch of room to explore these feelings and thoughts, and that space is what this movie does well for me. Where like I can think about revenge, I can think about this suffering, I can think about this pain, and this movie creates that huge space for my mind to go there.
Right.
And I think that's its greatest success thematically.
I agreed.
I will always give movies props for having the courage, as I said in the very beginning, to take like an unflinching look at the depths of human depravity and the extent to which we can really inflict pain and horror upon other people without even really. I mean, in this case, it's very intentional, but I think that in a lot of other cases, it's not. Mm-hmm. And I think that any movie that is brave enough to do that, I will give them props for it. However, I'd optimally like it to be a bit more of a cohesive, coherent experience.
Do you find this movie confusing, like You said it was confusing because you don't understand the character's motivations and the realistic aspect of it. But for me, it was confusing just because there's times where I'm like, how are they here? How did he just remember that they were in school together?
Totally.
What?
Yeah.
And like, I'm sure there's answers for that kind of stuff. But they went over my head when I was watching it.
That's one element that I feel like we didn't talk a ton about, but like, how do you, we're talking about it now. There was a lot of just confusion about where they are, what's going on now, who knows what, who told
Some of that
somebody.
is done really, I'm sure it's all purposeful, but some of it is really masterful where you're confused for a second, then you like, let's say they cut from one scene to another and they're in a new location. At first, you don't know where they are and you're confused. But then after about a minute, it starts to reveal itself and you're like, oh, okay, this is gonna just storytelling. Yeah. But other times you're just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and I think that the amount of times you say what the fuck when watching a movie, like the more times...
there's a budget?
There's a budget. There's a budget of WTFs. It's like after a certain threshold, all right, now you've
Sorry,
failed.
Tenet.
Yeah,
Too many, what the
fuck?
fuck?
Oh, that's the other one we were talking about. I forgot what... well, I wasn't on the Tenet podcast, but...
Did you end up watching it?
Yeah, I did.
What's your rating?
I forgot.
You hated it.
I didn't love it.
Yes!
I think I gave it a 6, maybe 5.
Sure.
Yeah, something like that. But that's another movie that it's like people... You need to have mystery in your movie. You need to have a set of unknowns at the beginning that slowly get revealed over the course of the movie, and that's cool. But I feel like a lot of people think that any movie that is confusing and then has things revealed at the end that's good. I feel like that is broadly a good trajectory, but it needs to be revealed in such a way that the viewer is taken along on this ride and like is enjoying it on the way there. Because if they're confused and I'm just asking, I just want to know. If I want to know harder than I want to continue the journey, that's bad.
You don't want to look back behind the boat and see that the water skiing handle thing is just flipping on the water. No one's holding on to it anymore.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I think for me, the big difference is if you care about the character and like, if you care about that character, that journey that you're kind of in the dark about it feels more gratifying. And if the characters are empty vessels for a point or for the plot, then you can't attach yourself to them. And I don't think Oldboy does that. I think I care about the characters, even though I might hate them a lot. I care about their journey, and so not fully understanding it doesn't bother me as much. And that being said, I've seen this movie many, many times, so like this time I'm not surprised by anything. And so yeah, I don't know. I think it's the character stuff. Yeah,
I want to speak to that because, like I said at the beginning, I was with Desu. You know, I'm like, yeah, you deserve to get revenge, dude. Let's go. But as things went on, he tries to rape the lady.
Yeah.
He beats up people for no reason. He's just kind of being an ass to people. I'm like, okay, I don't care about you as a character anymore.
Yeah.
Like, also, what you're getting revenge for, I'm not sure whether it's worth it at this point. Like, I feel like you want to find out.
Yeah.
But once he kind of finds out and he has 5 days to do it, I'm like, okay, just get out of there.
I think I can agree with that. I think
and
for
then
me,
Mido's two more. Mido's confusing, and for many reasons, as we've said before. Yeah. Woojin is confusing because I'm like, I can't relate to this. Like, we talk about Thanos as a great villain that's like understandable, right? He has a goal that's somewhat noble. He wants to like have people. He wants people to have enough resources, right? And so even though we completely disagree with his methods and he's a monster, we understand his motivation. I don't understand Woojin's motivation at all.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I think it's interesting because like sympathy and empathy in a movie are kind of like currency, where the movie has to invest and kind of pull out at certain points. And it's hard because everyone has different values, and so for what counts as an investment for one person for so many sympathy points or whatever won't work the same for other people. And so I think like I can get that for you. The movie's withdrawing too many sympathy points.
Exactly what you said at the beginning. He has never wanted revenge on anybody.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
you don't understand where the villain's coming from.
That's true. I do not hold grudges.
And because you don't understand.
I'm way too forgiving immediately.
Yeah. And then
so that's
therefore
probably,
you don't see that like the villain is evil and bad because he's gone down this path, this psychological path that no one should go down, and he's gone down too far. And now the protagonist is going down that same path, and so we, the viewer, are supposed to hope that he doesn't go down the same path, but then he ultimately does.
Yeah, so maybe that's it. It's that I'm like, I already know revenge is bad, and I've never had the instinct to actually take. I mean, maybe when I was a kid, I guess I'd be like, "Ooh, you stole my thing." I'm gonna be upset about it.
You ever throw like sticks through someone's spokes or?
Holy shit! No.
Have you ever done anything evil?
The most evil thing
I stole something from the corner store once.
No, that's not evil. Have you ever done something malicious? Like, there was this kid at this daycare that I didn't really like, and he was dressed up as Superman. He was going down these
daycare,
steps, and
maybe
I intentionally stepped on his cape.
Oh!
You remember this?
And so he went, "Gah!" He got clotheslined by his cape, and he fell down the few steps, and he hit his head.
And you still remember this?
Oh my god!
Yeah, and he knew
You were traumatized.
He
by
knew
your
I did it
own-
on purpose.
By your own desire for revenge, you were traumatized.
It wasn't. I don't know if it was revenge.
Did he get away with it?
I don't know.
It's possible and even likely that I did something malicious as a child, but I don't remember a ton of that now.
One time I stuck my foot out and tripped one of my friends. He was walking by my desk trying to get to some bookshelf. I stuck my foot out. He totally ate shit. I think his face even hit the bookshelf.
Oh my
He was
God.
crying. It was great. He
Oh
was
my
like
God.
7 or 8 years old.
Do you think it was like a malicious thing, or do you think it was just like an imp of the perverse thing?
Imp of the perverse,
Yeah.
like but what happened? What if I did this? The Superman cape thing, it was both. It was like, what if I, it's the kind of thing you can do. You've seen it in cartoons and stuff. The physics of this will work, and I don't really like you, so boom.
That's amazing.
That's fucked up. I want to talk about two weird movie crossovers, and it's weird that we talk about Tenet because when they talk about the Russian.
Yeah.
It's
The Chechen terrorists, and they use the gas to knock them out.
It's the same event that inspired the opening of Tenet.
That's
it's
right.
Such a random coincidence. And then there's also the fact that the prison's on the 7.5 floor, which is the same floor that
Harry Potter.
No, that's 9.5.
It's 7 3/4.
But it's the
9
the same
3/4.
floor. Yeah, 9 3/4. You're right. That John Malkovich, The Office is in.
We gotta do
Oh.
that one.
That's a great.
We
movie.
have to
I
do
would
it.
love to do it.
Yeah. All right, that's for a day when there's nothing interesting coming out.
And
We should have done that instead of this one.
very few people will watch that episode. It's.
Being John Malkovich.
Being John Malkovich?
I don't think that.
There's so many John Malkoviches
Malkovich.
out there.
Hit us up in the
Malkovich.
comments,
Malkovich.
everybody.
We're all John Malkovich.
Is that it, guys?
I'm writing
I
a
think so.
memoir.
Okay.
That's from
Tweet at us.
the other movie.
Tweet at us. hello@carpoolcritics.ca. And next week for you carpool,
Convoyers.
dang it, I can't even. What's your names? We're doing Zack Snyder's new movie, Army of the Dead. Check it
That's
out on
right.
Netflix.
Zombies. What's not to love?